U.S. winemakers are finding out after Canada retaliated against President Donald Trump's ridiculous tariffs. After President Trump announced a series of tariffs targeting Canadian goods earlier this year, Canada was quick to respond with their own retaliatory measures aimed at specific sectors of the American economy, mainly that rely on exports north of the border, one of which happened to be the wine industry. And of course, they're now whining about it, the industry itself, uh, because the result here happened to be a 93% drop in American wine exports to Canada. This was in April, by the way. This is the largest year over year decline in exports in decades, which of course is absolutely destroying the industry. Canada is the largest buyer of exported U.S. wine. According to one expert, wine firms here in the U.S. thought that the tariff on imported goods, including wine from Canada, would be a boon. But it has turned out the other way around, said Karl Storchmann, executive director of the American Association of Wine Economists, speaking to BNN Bloomberg in a Wednesday interview. Canada, he said, pulled the plug, and the exports of U.S. wine to Canada are virtually down to zero, or they're closing in on zero. And exports to Canada account for more than a third of all U.S. exports by value, and that is massive. Yes, that it is massive. It is a massive FAFO. Good job. You voted for this. Trump's decision in March to impose a blanket 25% tariff on most Canadian goods entering the U.S. was met with, of course, swift retaliation at both the federal and provincial level in Canada, which is the right thing to do. The Liquor Control Board of Ontario, for example, which typically imports about $1 billion worth of American alcohol a year, was directed to remove all U.S. wine and spirits from its shelves by Premier Doug Ford, somebody that I generally don't agree with on most things, but on this one, it's like, hey, man, more power to you on this, okay? Similar actions were, of course, taken in other provinces, including British Columbia. After those tariffs were removed following Trump's Liberation Day trade announcement, imports did resume, but at a much slower pace. The federal government continues to impose a 25% tariff on wine, U.S. wine, entering the country. Here's the thing, though. Okay, yes, there were tariffs, and then Trump kind of took those tariffs away because they were disastrous, right? But here's the thing. It's not just that anymore. It's the principle of the thing. It's the betrayal that Canadians feel. America has betrayed its friend, Canada, with these nonsensical tariffs. They voted for this. There is no more trust between our two nations, which again is really sad because I love Canada. Okay, I want Canada to be our friends. They're our northern neighbors. I live in Michigan. They're right above us. But that trust now between our two countries is gone thanks to a man baby and a sycophant supporters. In fact, I mean, you could argue that Canada was on track to elect its own Trump-like person until Trump did the stuff that he was doing, and Canadians were like, oh, wow, no. Yeah, no, ooh, bad idea.
Oh, no!
No, we're going to vote for Mark Carney, okay? That's what's going to happen here. And so, oops. Look, this is why, though, by the way, even though American wine and spirits are now available for Canadians to purchase, they no longer want it. They're sticking to Buy Canada, okay? Buy Canadian, and I don't blame them. Look, they don't need our alcohol. We do need their money. I mean, it's nice to have. They needed our money far more than they needed our booze. So, oops. Now, Storchmann added this, quote, if you cannot ship out millions of dollars worth of wine, it will stay here, but the pot is closed and the lid is on the pot. It must lead to price drops in the U.S. So it's not turning out to be a boon. It might be the absolute opposite. Yes. Look, yeah, Of course, it's simple supply and demand. Okay, that's it. If nobody's buying it, if we're not shipping it out to other countries, who's going to buy it in the U.S.? Now, of course, it is hurting a lot of high-end wine producers in California. In fact, Storchmann says Canada is a very, very important market for upscale wine, and it's in enormous quantities. The premium wine markets are Canada and China. American wine exports to China, the third largest purchaser of U.S. wine, also took a hit in April as Beijing and Washington were in the midst of a trade war of their own. Yes, a Donald Trump trade war. China bought 30.5% less American wine in April than it did in the same month of 2024. Storchmann said that on top of all this, overall demand for wine around the world has been on the decline for the last 2 or 3 years since the pandemic. Wine consumption in the U.S. globally has been going down, probably pretty much starting after COVID-19. So that is another problem. That's why Canada virtually pulling the plug makes it especially hard. You know, it really does feel like we could have avoided all this. But I mean, and the reason I say that is like, we knew this was going to happen. Trump said, I'm going to do the tariffs. We're going to do massive tariffs. What are you going to do? I love tariffs. Oh, well, yeah, so we're going to put tariffs on everybody. Now, here's the thing, though. He lied about what tariffs are to his followers. They didn't know. They didn't know what tariffs were. They didn't know. They thought the other countries paid it. Well, that's their fault for believing it. They didn't realize that tariffs are paid by U.S. citizens. We're basically, the money comes from us to the government. That's it. Tariffs are an import tax. It is a tax, and there is a reason for it, okay? It is meant to dissuade you from importing things from other countries because you don't want to pay more. Okay, the thing is, though, we are now a global economy. We rely on things that either are not or cannot be made or obtained domestically. Think of it this way. Coffee. Coffee is a great example. You know, the only state in the country that is capable of growing coffee is in Hawaii. Hawaii, while they can grow coffee, they cannot grow enough to sate all the coffee drinkers in the continental United States. And if somehow we ended up in a situation where Hawaii was the only source we could get coffee from, well, the result is most people wouldn't be able to get coffee, wouldn't be able to afford it. It would be extremely unaffordable because of the issue of supply and demand. This is something that Trump and many of his supporters, at least the supporters of the tariffs, failed to understand. Completely failed. Now, here's the thing, too. Many in the wine industry, they actually donated to Republican candidates. Yes, billionaire entrepreneur Bill Foley, for example, owner of Foley Family Wine, gave more than $600,000 in 2024 to Republican candidates. Now, look, there is, of course, some that give to Democrats, some that give to Republicans, some that give to both equally, right? But you do have those vintners that give to Republicans, including President Donald Trump in his campaign. Now, that said, according to opensecrets.org, you had Bill Foley that gave to Republicans, Barbara Bank, who is the owner of Jackson Family Wines. She has given more than $394,000 in political contributions in 2024. Most of that money went to Republican candidates. For example, Congresswoman Diana Harshbarger. Bank, who contributed to Ron DeSantis' presidential bid, didn't actually give money to Donald Trump. But she still gives money to Republicans. She was also, she had also had to deny hosting a fundraiser for Donald Trump. So there's that. Like I said, there are ones who gave to Trump. There are ones who gave to Republicans, but not Trump. But they knew, I'm pretty sure they knew what was coming. He said, we're going to do these tariffs, and we're going to do mass deportations. And then he did. Those deportations, by the way, are also having an impact on the wine industry, as this is agricultural work. And guess what? A lot of immigrants do agricultural work. So, look, if you voted for Trump, if you supported Trump and Republicans, then I'm sorry to say, but this is exactly what you had asked for. And so now, play stupid games, win stupid prizes. Thank you for watching. If you enjoyed this video, please like, share, subscribe, hit the bell icon in order to get notified whenever a new video is released. And if you want to support independent, progressive media through this difficult time where it seems like everybody is shutting down, you can become a member on our YouTube page, you can become a subscriber on Facebook, or you can go to my Patreon. It's patreon.com/Jeff Waldorf. Thank you.